Hi guys, this is Chris and Rich from Retro Sanctuary, and welcome to Retro Weekends, where we try to complete the most notable games from gaming history.
This week we'll attempt to complete Wizards and Warriors for the Nintendo Entertainment System. This is an action-adventure game made in 1987 by Rare. It's their second release for the system, but was the first one that sort of gained a lot of popularity. They'd previously made games on the 8-bit computers to great success. So, you ready to go for it then?
I'm ready, let's give it a go.
Let's go. Right, so this is an action-adventure game with a lot of focus on treasure hunting. There's a guy at the top of the screen in this level who's blocking the way with a number above his head, and you need the number of gems written above his head to sort of bribe him to get him out of the way.
Okay.
You collect these gems and you look for the keys for the chests. The chests give you new moves, new special moves and abilities, and they help you along in the game. Got the pink key now as well. Right, we've got the dagger of throwing.
The dagger of throwing! Or the throwing daggers, maybe.
The dagger of throwing is obviously much better than using the sword normally as well. So we've actually got a projectile weapon now. He only required 100 odd, didn't he?
Yeah.
So we have done that now. We've got the shield and we've got the dagger of throwing as well. So here's the guy here. See, now that we have enough gems we can get past him.
Yeah.
It's quite interesting actually, because this sort of gameplay mechanic was used in Banjo-Kazooie as well with the note doors.
It's a bit of a trademark of Rare, isn't it?
Yeah, I'd say so. You know, because you got these doors in Banjo-Kazooie, and they'll have a number written on them, and you have to collect notes in the stage to allow you to open the doors and gain access to the new area essentially. So it is actually sort of like the same idea as this.
It's interesting to see that Rare carried it through.
Yeah.
Hey.
So, first level done.
Oh, interestingly enough, you didn't actually have to give him the gems. You just want to see that you collected them.
Yeah, it's a bit odd really, isn't it? He's not very good at taking bribes, that guy.
No.
Must have forgotten to take the actual money. Right, so just look around for gems really, and do platforming jumps, and try and remember where everything is. It's sort of like,
yeah, cheers.
just explore the area.
Just do everything. Yeah. just make sure you do everything.
You got a permanent move here, potion of levitation.
How do I levitate? What? Is that all I can do?
You can make it to there now.
What, can I jump from there? Oh, actually that's not too bad.
Yeah, it just gives you a little bit more height on the jump essentially.
Yeah, I thought it was just you could just levitate
Yeah,
off the floor.
To be fair, even that's slightly useful because in later levels there are sections with things going in and out of the wall. So you can land on it, then just levitate while it goes out and back in again.
Fair dues.
You know, so even then it's kind of half useful.
Do I go to him now? Because I think I've explored everything.
No, there's loads up top left.
Top left?
Yeah. There's an important item in this section that can easily be missed. Now, this is the jump that you have to make, right? So I spent ages trying to get this item, and then I realised that underneath this section is a blue potion, right?
Right.
So if you grab the blue potion and then run really fast up there, you can get through to that section.
In here?
No, it's one to the right.
Okay.
Right, so you need to grab the blue potion and then run this bit perfectly, essentially. Oh, it's left. And also don't pick up the red potion. Nearly made it. Oh, you nearly made it there on your first try.
Definitely would have made it if I knew where I was going.
Yeah, if you'd gone left there instead of jumping right, you would have made it.
Oh, I mistimed the jump. I jumped too early. Oh, I'm dead.
Alright, fucks that up.
The A jump thing's quite useful there. Just hold A. Easy.
Oh, done it.
The feather of Featherfall.
Right, now if you hold up whilst dropping, you glide slower. I think we might actually have all of the permanent moves
It does
already.
look like
actually.
it, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, it's a big bat. I'm dead.
This is the boss now.
That's a boss?
Yeah, that's the boss. Yeah, that is the wisest way of doing this bit.
Why wasn't he dying immediately? Some take more hits than others.
Yeah.
Oh, turned around. You see that?
The hit. I don't think it should have hit you actually as well.
Got him.
Whack him. Remember. Oh.
Fucking die, motherfuckers.
Oh.
Oh, but that was the first one. Oosh!
A little bit lucky there.
Nah, that's fine. All played for. All played for.
Rare were quite an interesting company, really. Definitely the most important video game company to come out of Britain, I would say. But they'd had a lot of success on 8-bit computers in Britain prior to jumping on the Nintendo. They actually had a bunch of the highest rated games on the Spectrum, and some of their C64 games were quite well rated as well. And inexplicably, for the British public, they just decided to disappear one year. And what had actually happened was that they were keeping an eye on the Japanese market at the time, and they'd seen this Nintendo Entertainment System that was taking off over there, the Famicom as it was known, and they decided that that's where the future was, essentially. So they'd gone to Nintendo asking for a license, and Nintendo had refused the license. So they took the Famicom apart and they reverse engineered it, created a bunch of demos for it based on what they'd learned, then brought the demos back to Nintendo again. And Nintendo were so amazed with what they'd done with it that they immediately gave them a license. And they were the first Western company to get a license for the system. And and Slalom, their first release, was the first Western game made for the Famicom. I just think it's quite interesting that Rare had the foresight to just completely jump ship from the market that they were doing very well in. You know, they were the kings of the Spectrum market, essentially, circa 83, 84. They were the big guys, and all of the magazines were hanging on their words, really. And then suddenly they're just like, no, we need to go global. They made a bet on the Nintendo, and that bet paid off, really.
Paid off dividends.
Yeah, so this game did have a bunch of sequels in the end, but the sequels weren't actually made by Rare themselves. They were made. Rare had sort of like leased the series out to another development team. They don't really play that well. I'd say they're not really an improvement on this. This has its own flaws, of course, but for 87, you can sort of ignore a lot of the flaws of the game. Whereas the sequels sort of add even more flaws in, really.
Did that block move?
Yeah, they go in and out of the wall, these ones.
Ah, so this is where I can just hover and wait for it to come back out.
Yeah. I don't mind the soundtrack to this game, but this is a bit...
So very repetitive, though, isn't it?
Repetitive, isn't it?
All of the soundtracks being repetitive.
Yeah, I didn't mind one or two levels. I don't like the music changes at all. And when you're close to death, I don't like that either. It's super irritating. But the guy who did the music for this is actually the guy that did the music for Donkey Kong Country on the Super Nintendo. So he became like a massive figure of gaming music. I guess he's sort of learning the ropes a bit here. You muck up one of the jumps and you fall down quite far, don't you?
Yeah. Right, okay.
And if you think about it, if we didn't have the feather of feather fall, then this would be
nigh on
as
impossible.
Well. Yeah.
I didn't miss.
Maybe it'll be up the top somewhere anyway. We can always hope.
Ah, fuck it. If it's right down the bottom, I'm not playing anymore.
Float. See if we can see it along the way.
There's nothing to the left. Oh no! Just gonna jump for it. Come all the way left, as far as I can go. There it is.
There it is.
Told you it'd be there.
Go back up now, Chris.
Yeah, it's alright.
Wasn't quite at the bottom though, was it? You didn't have to quite go.
Shut up! Hey. Ole. Boss. Oh, you can't even see him. Oh, hold on.
This is a sort of interesting idea for a boss fight, I think, actually.
Why aren't you going invisible?
It doesn't do anything.
Whoa. Is this the last iteration?
I'm not even sure if it is. Oh, it is good. I was worried about nothing then in the end. Yeah, it's sort of interesting, I think, that boss fight. It just gets bigger and bigger as you fight it. You know, it's something you see in later games, but I don't remember any earlier games that have done that, really. One to go.
Yeah, the big red buttons always drop them.
Is this it now? Final boss?
Okay, so how do I kill him?
Generally, I just stand on the slopes to the left and shoot him when he appears.
Or just die? This is where I find out if you die on the final boss, you have to do the whole game again.
Got about twice as much health as you. Right, you're well ahead of him at the moment then. Yeah, you got this in the bag. Sorted. Make sure you hit him quick. Alright, I think you've done it now. You just got to leave. You've got to find a blue door and it's over. That's it.
Her arms will be broken by now.
Basically the same ending you get at the end of every level. Plus points.
Is that the ending?
Yeah.
So, Rich, what do you think of the game?
I'd say that the game is above average for 1987. A lot of these concepts, they're done better in Metroid, which came out the year earlier, but only on the Famicom Disk System. But Metroid did get released the same year as this on cartridge as well. Zelda 2 as well, another sort of action-adventure game that was out this year. You definitely can't say that this competes with Metroid or Zelda 2 at all.
No.
It just feels a bit unpolished in some areas. The combat feels a bit unpolished, wouldn't you say?
Definitely. I don't.
The way the sword works is not great usually. You need to pick up the dagger of throwing quite quickly.
The axe of Gorm. Anyway, so what are you going to score it then?
It's above average, so I'm going to give it a 3 out of 5 because I believe that the structure of the game is sound, which isn't actually true for a lot of games in 1987. It does a lot of the ideas that were sort of at the forefront of gameplay at the moment. It doesn't do them amazingly well, but it does them to a reasonable standard.
Adequately.
Boss fights, I think, are probably ahead of the curve a bit. I mean, if you remember Metroid...
Only had 3 bosses.
And 2 of them are quite small, weedy kind of bosses as well during the game, whereas this has a lot of bosses, some somewhat interesting ones, like the guy that's growing bigger and bigger. He was sort of interesting. The art design I don't think is amazing, but...
It looks a bit like a Spectrum game, doesn't it?
It's interesting you say that, actually, because I feel like there might be some truth in that.
There is.
The way
Remember the holy hand grenade of Antioch that comes out the floor? It's always just flashing the same colour.
Yeah, there's a lot of black backgrounds and there's a lot of kind of like pinks kind of colours, very vibrant colours over like black backgrounds a lot of the time, and like you said, the flashing as well, flashing colours which are used quite a lot on Spectrum. So there might be some truth in that. I mean, Rare made a game called Underworld, which was sort of all set in caverns as well, and that's another action adventure game from a lot earlier than this. There's some similarities with the art design there. You reckon that maybe this game was designed for Spectrum originally?
Could have been.
Getting upgraded to being an NES game. A lot of the games in '87 did have more simplistic graphics as well. You know, they did get better at using the NES over time. I mean, Metroid is a lot of just black backgrounds and caverns. So I'd say it's above average. So I'm going to give it a 3 out of 5. I'd say.
Yeah, I think I'm going to concur with your 3 out of 5 there. It just seems a bit long for. I mean, if it had one less level, it would have been a bit better. But the fact that you can't die, the fact you start from exactly where you do die, it gives you. It just doesn't. You just don't feel like you need to worry about taking hits whatsoever. You
that is a problem with the game as well that we didn't bring up. Yeah. It's that usually I'm very much not a fan of these unlimited continues and on the spot respawns, because I feel like it takes away a lot of the challenge of the game. You don't feel like it's rewarding. But this game has so many difficult platform jumping sections, like that entire level with the castle on it, with the sections moving in and out. That sort of offsets the fact that you've got unlimited continues, because there is some tricky stuff in this game that you do need skill to actually get through. So it's not too easy, I would say, but like you said, maybe one less level, because it does feel like a bit of a slog by the end.
Okay guys, that's Wizards and Warriors for this week. An average game.
Yeah, I'd say a solid game. Got Rare's foot in the door, which was what they needed at the time.
Yeah, they did what they needed to do with that. So if you liked it, please hit a like, send us some comments below. We do enjoy reading them. And hit a subscribe as well, because it helps us out immensely. So we'll see you next week on another game. Take care.
See ya.